I did not think it could get worse. It could. It could. We talked about in a different segment, the little teaser clip of an interview that Trump did with Meet the Press, where he goes, yeah, sure, to the idea of a recession. That clip is going to get him into so much trouble. His party, you just play that on repeat in every election, in every close congressional district, in every swing state and future presidential election. The fact that the Republican standard bearer was, yeah, sure, to the idea of recession that he created. Okay, but the full interview came out, and I want to do a deep dive into it. You may have seen clips floating around, but let's really go through this piece by piece. Terrifying, terrible, and tragic, I guess would be my alliteration there. So let's start with the clip we already covered, and then one time after that, he can't control his mouth. His mouth is screwing over his political capital and his parties. Now, in some of these cases, the fact that he's just admitting how terrible some of these things are, bad for him, but good for us because he's being rarely transparent here. So this is what we already talked about. Kristen Welker saying, what about this fear that we've had a negative GDP quarter, one more, and we're going to be in a recession, and this is because of your policies? And Trump literally can't help but utter, yeah, sure, that's fine, I guess.
And I want to know what you think about that. Are you comfortable with the country potentially dipping into a recession for a period of time if you are able to achieve your long-term goals?
Well, you say some people on Wall Street say, well, I can tell you something else. Some people on Wall Street say that we're going to have the greatest economy in history. Why don't you talk about them? Because some people on Wall Street say this is the greatest thing that ever happened.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at, though. It's the same question.
Yeah, there are many people on Wall Street say this is going to be the greatest windfall ever happened.
And that's my question.
Remember
the
this.
long term. Yeah. Is it okay in the short term to have a recession?
This. Look, everything's okay.
Yeah.
What we are, I said, this is a transition period. I think we're going to
mass economic pain caused by needless, incoherent trade policy. Yeah, sure. All right. Well, it got worse. As I said, he then, and that's why I'm imagining his brain going, no, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't do it. No. And then his mouth just goes, meh, and admits something so terrible. Listen to him here, admitting the whole game, giving it all away. By the way, if you appreciate the show, please do click the subscribe button, each and every one of you. I appreciate
a deal very badly. We'll see how that all turns out, but it's got to be a fair deal.
When does it become the Trump economy?
It partially is right now, and I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy, and the bad parts are the Biden economy, because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job.
No. A while ago, I tried to explain to him like he was a baby the concept of inside thoughts and outside. Some things you keep inside, like we know that's the lie you tell. We know. But you're not supposed to admit that that's what you're going to be doing. Blame Biden. Can you believe this, Jaden? Blame Biden for the bad stuff. Take credit for the good stuff, even if, as you already accidentally admitted when you were reading off stats that were put in front of you by your staff, that the underlying economy was pretty strong, but the tariff impacted aspects contributed to the economic uncertainty that we're currently in. And he just admits it. He just admits it. This is proof that, yes, you can have a dangerous, authoritarian, cynical operator who does have an ideology and does have malicious intentions and is also, pardon my French, an idiot. You can have both. You can have someone who is just unable to control his own speech sometimes and is bad, cartoonishly ridiculous and bad. Both can be present at the same time. We should take him seriously, and he's deeply unserious, right? And then we move forward about the authoritarian threat that he poses. His only justification is, well, I won the election.
Picture people who have lived in countries like the Philippines, Hungary, Russia. They look at some of your actions going after civil service, going after universities, law firms, the media. They say it's out of an authoritarian playbook. What do you say to those who believe you are taking the country down an authoritarian path?
Well, there you go again. Why don't you ask it a different way? Many people wanted to come into our country. Many people love Trump. I won the election. They didn't win the election. I got a lot more votes than they did. I won the popular vote. I won all 7 swing states by a lot. A lot of people were surprised. I said, I think he could win 4, maybe 5. No, I won all 7, and I won by a lot. And I won, actually, I think there was a lot of hanky-panky going on, but it was too big to rig. That's the good news. It's too big to rig. But let me just say, so when you make these statements about, people say this, people, well, you know, they had their chance at the election and they lost.
You would have to have never, ever, not even one single time, looked at even a page, a subheading, a heading of a history textbook, of a book about history, of a fiction about history, to believe that authoritarianism and being democratically elected can't both be present. Yes, he was democratically elected, and he's acting in authoritarian ways. People being elected by a democracy, then dismantling said democracy, it's happened before. Like a couple times, actually. It's weird. Speaking of the authoritarianism, the Washington Post reports the Post examined immigration and court records about the deportations throwing out due process under the Alien Enemies Act that even a Trump-born judge has now deemed to be illegal, and sound the alarm bell of folks to this El Salvadoran prison camp. Continuing reading this, and conducted interviews with attorneys, friends, and family members to piece together information about more than 50 of the men believed to be imprisoned at the Terrorism Confinement Center, the mega prison often referred to by its Spanish acronym, CICOT. The review shows that despite the administration's claims, many of the immigrants sent to El Salvador had entered the United States legally and were actively complying with U.S. immigration rules. At least 2 of the men imprisoned in El Salvador had been approved by the State Department to resettle as refugees in the United States after extensive vetting by federal law enforcement authorities, documents show. At least 4 had protections against removal through temporary protected status, often called TPS, granted to those fleeing Venezuela's humanitarian crisis. 1 individual fleeing because of fear of persecution that had been deemed to be very credible, both because of him being gay and speaking out against the regime, according to attorneys for the men or records shared with the Post. Others had been active members of Venezuela's opposition and had open asylum claims. But this piece goes really extensively into how I want it now, but I want a cool hype video where it says, "Make America Great Again," and then it shows people having their heads shaved. That mood and sort of demand from Trump led to just a hasty, disjointed, illegal attempt at a PR stunt that's now throwing, turning the lives upside down of these folks, but also calling into question the very values of due process, of human right, that the United States is supposed to be great because of. Speaking of, she asked about due process here.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know. It might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or.
I don't know. Someone who swore an oath to the Constitution doesn't know a thing about it, or he does and he doesn't care. And again, I go back to, all right, he has these terrible views, authoritarian, he's dishonest, blah, blah, blah. But how do you not think of a more thoughtful way to defend yourself than, hey, sir, are you okay with a recession? Yeah, I don't know. When is it going to be your economy? It'll be mine if it's good and Biden's if it's bad. Do you value the constitutional demand for due process? I don't know. That's it? That's all you can come up with? Then he goes through this number again, which I'm telling you, this and the recession clip are going to be used in campaign ads for years now.
talk about the tariffs. And I want to ask you about something you said this week. Got a lot of attention. You were at your cabinet meeting. You said, quote, I'm going to quote what you said, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30.
Yeah.
And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade.
I heard some economists say something to the effect of, the absurdity of Trump's statement there goes deeper than you think, which is, first of all, what an out of touch statement, which is obviously everyone gets $30 on Christmas. So why don't you just give them 2 instead? Yeah, maybe in the environment you grew up in, Trump. But something way more deep is present there. His economic illiteracy should be frightening, terrorizing to us all because he's the president and he doesn't know basic concepts like whatever, and this was the economist's point, whatever economic phenomenon, detach any argument about terror, just zooming out, whatever economic phenomenon would cause someone to go from having $30 to 2 or 3, being able to afford $30 to 2 or 3 would be indicative of a collapse of individual income, wealth, purchasing power that would cross over into things way less trivial than dolls, right? If all of a sudden people don't have the money to buy, in his estimation, $30, or you saw that percentage decrease in people's ability to purchase things, that would also carry over to basic necessities, obviously. And that's what he wouldn't even have the ability to contend with. You have Republican Senator Ron Johnson, as Ed Krasenstein put it, normalizing the idea of a recession.
It's okay. That's the president saying everything's okay, including a short-term recession. Do you agree?
Well, I'm old enough to remember when Ronald Reagan took office and inflation was completely out of control. He and Paul Volcker had to take some pretty bold and swift actions to tame inflation. That included a pretty severe recession, but that's what it took. When you come into office and you are inheriting enormous messes across the spectrum, you know, an open border that presents a clear and present danger, a 40-year high inflation that has dramatically devalued the dollar, endless wars going on. It's hard to clean up those enormous messes. So I appreciate President Trump has acted boldly, swiftly, decisively to clean up some of these messes. And yeah, it's...
None of them even, they don't have the spine, the courage to just be slightly honest. Wait, no, very little of what he said there was even close to accurate. You're saying that maybe a recession is necessary because of out of control inflation that we don't have. The out of control inflation was clearly controllable because it got under control, because it was a phenomenon post-pandemic that then Biden's governance clearly handled fine because it came down and then was at a much more healthy point when Trump took office. What he's doing is taking an economy where inflation had come down, growth was steady, and is now slowing growth and risking spiking inflation. So this isn't a natural contraction after an explosive recovery out of something or out of sort of inflationary times. This is a steady situation with lots of problems that Trump is making so much worse. Meanwhile, if you're thinking, please, White House, I'm going to look to the White House for... Jade knows what's about to be put up. He just put his head down on his computer. Please tell me something hopeful. Well, the White House posted something for us all. They said, Happy May the 4th to all, including the radical left lunatics who are fighting so hard to bring Sith Lords, murderers, drug lords, dangerous prisoners, and well-known MS-13 gang members back into our galaxy. You're not the rebellion, you're the empire. May the 4th be with you. And it's a shot of Trump where, if you're a podcast listener, take the image of Trump that you know and then forget it altogether and imagine a really ripped person with Trump's face vaguely on it. That's the animation holding a lightsaber. Now, I'm not a Star Wars expert, but I did see people saying that a red lightsaber is proof that you're on the dark side. But they were saying we're on the dark side, but then they gave him a red lightsaber. So even at least don't insult the Star Wars community. My goodness. Back to tariffs.
Easy. It's very simple.
Are these tariffs permanent, Mr. President?
Depends.
I don't want this face. I don't want this face on the look. I don't want this on the face of the president when they're asked about one of the most consequential trade wars in the history of the world. I don't want this look. Again, for our podcast listeners, imagine a little pouty face. I've never thought of that before. That's kind of the look. Mr. President, you say you have a comprehensive plan of tariffs that you are laying out, even though you turned them on and then off and then partially on and then partially off and Liberation Day and then walk back Liberation Day and then on and off and on and off. And we're going to tariff the penguins. Oh, maybe we don't do that. Oh, we're going to 145% China, but we're going to decrease. And no, we're actually not going to decrease. Oh, well, we are a besting. We actually can't do this. It's too escalatory, but we're going to wait on China to call us. But actually, they already called us. But apparently all of that's the art of the deal, baby. It's the art of the deal, baby, is what we've been told. So, what is the next step here? And the look on his face is, I've never thought of that before.
Easy. It's very simple.
Are these tariffs permanent, Mr. President?
Depends on what you're talking about.
Yeah.
One of the things that is going to bring and has brought, so I think we probably have close to $9 trillion of investments coming into this country. If you look,
Where'd you get that number? Quick follow-up. Does the sun shine where you got that number from?
of investments coming into this country. If you look at other presidents, there's never been anything like that. This is over a period of 2 months. You got to give me a little break on the 1 month because we're 3 months. But, let's say we had to get started. We had a lot of fake news at the beginning, so we had to beat that down. But so let's say in 2 months. So in just a short period of time, a matter of a couple of months, we have the largest number ever in.
He spent 20 seconds deciding how many months he was going to be talking about. We have $9 trillion of investments over the last 4 months. Well, I guess if you think about it, it's kind of like 3 months. But if you really whittle it down, it's 2 months. But Biden was kind of making a lot of noise, so maybe we say 1 month. But let's think about it. I guess it's kind of 4 months, but maybe it's two. So a couple. Is a couple like a few, or is a couple like a two? Let's say a couple. Thanks. But then he goes on to that. I would put money on this whole, we've gotten declarations from all of these companies that they're making investments. The number's not 9 trillion, first of all. And second of all, we saw the first term how many empty proclamations were made. I will give him credit when we see it, okay? And there's already signs that some of the people saying we're going to invest in new manufacturing are now going, wait, can we? It's too economically uncertain. Then, for asking the basic question of prices are going to go up, right? Trump says, so dishonest.
Well, prices are already going up on some popular items. Tires, strollers.
This is such a dishonest interview already. Prices are down on groceries. Prices are down for oil. Prices are down for all energy. Prices are down at tremendous numbers for gasoline. And let me tell you, when you have the big thing, what he did, he spent like a stupid person, which he was, but he spent like a very stupid person. And that was bad for inflation. But what really killed us with inflation was the price of energy. it went up to $3.90, even $4, and in California, $5 and $6, right?
Energy. Energy was at $6. What type of energy? Energy.
Okay. I have it down to $1.98 in many states right now. When you go that much lower on energy, which is ahead of my prediction, because I really thought I could get it down into the 250s. We have it down at $1.98 in numerous places. But when you say costs are going up, even mortgage rates are going down.
Well, but let me give you some examples. These are actual examples. So you're saying the prices that are going down, some prices are going up. Tires, strollers, some clothing in the wake of your tariffs.
Excuse me, that's peanuts compared to energy.
All right, Kristen. Now the reason I played so much of that, because you're thinking, Luke, we've already debunked it. Did you see Kristen Welker? I do commentary. She does new stuff, right? She's like a commentator or an anchor. And she's trying to challenge. It pains me to have to turn my sights on you, Kristen. But what the hell? You just let him go for a minute saying all false things. All false things. Not some false things, not a few false things, all false things. And then you went, no, I know those are going down. I know he's claiming he has overseen decreases, which we can only assume he means from when he took office, in groceries, in gas prices, in eggs. There were so many eggs. We had an egg gala. It was so great. We didn't know what to do with all the eggs. In reality, we've already gone through that 198 figure wrong. Still, they're up from when Biden left office with energy, or he's specifically referring to gas prices, but won't specify there. And of course, we've seen price fluctuations. So sometimes they're going down. That's that industry. But he's just saying grocery prices are down from when he took office. No, they're not. But he just makes stuff up. And then Kristen Welker just accepts it. I don't get it. Now, you're asking again, you're saying, Luke, what the heck, man? I'm sure the White House wasn't just posting about May the 4th be with you. I'm sure they posted other things to address the concerns of Americans in such an uncertain time. Trump wants to be the Pope. And here's an image they created where Trump is dressed as the Pope. And they posted the fact that Trump posted that. In response, friend of the show, Harry Sisson, said if Joe Biden posted an AI image of himself as the Pope, MAGA would lose their minds and call it offensive. When Trump does it, they jump up and down with joy and they celebrate it, the hypocrisy of MAGA. And he attached an AI image of Pope Biden. Which again, if Biden posted that, they would say it's offensive, it's terrible, you're a fake Catholic, Biden, etc. NYS Catholic Conference said there's nothing clever or funny about this image, Mr. President. We just buried our beloved Pope Francis, and the cardinals are about to enter a solemn conclave to elect a new successor of St. Peter. Do not mock us. Even a Trump fan posted, not a fan of this. I get that Trump loves to troll, which is usually pretty funny, but this ain't it. It's giving Antichrist vibes. Then you have Cardinal Dolan saying,
non era buono. No.
Can you say that in English?
He asked me about the president appearing as the Pope. Yeah. I hope he didn't have anything to do with that.
Are you offended by that?
Well, it wasn't good. Gli italiani dicono una brutta figura.
Yeah, the way
it wasn't good. No, I'd agree. Cardinal Dolan, I'd agree. Wasn't good. Was not good. I'd even say, should I? Yeah, I'd say it was bad. I would go there. It was bad. I think it was bad. Then we continue with this off the rails interview here.
Part of the same thing, though. The big emergency right now is that we have thousands of people that we want to take out, and we have some judges that want everybody to go to
Some
court.
of them you appointed. sir, including
That's all right.
3 on the Supreme Court.
They change. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how that happens, but they do change.
Yeah, even when Trump appoints someone, them ruling against him can never be because they actually know more about the law than him. And even with their ideological slant to the right, they still can't justify his illegal activity. It's not that. It's that they changed. Joe Biden got to them and threatened them with a good time. And they started being liberal. They had a whole career, in some cases, of being pretty right-wing. But then all of a sudden, the second they ruled against Trump, now they're just a part of that deep state I keep hearing about. All right, there's more clips. He does address weakly, flaccidly, the targeting of his political opponents. But let's jump in here. You said you were going to unite the country. How's that going?
Calling for your Attorney General
he's been
to
looked
investigate
at
that
for a long time. And the other one said that the election was so wonderful. It was such a, well, it turned out it wasn't a wonderful election. It was a corrupt election.
You said you wanted to unify the country. Does going after political foes undercut that goal?
No, not at all. No, we want honest people.
Okay.
No, not at all. I guess the question was not how's that going. It's does targeting your political opponent undercut that? He targeted Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett.
I can't name one Democrat. I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said,
Low IQ person, he says. Disgusting. She responded, imagine being busy getting another honorary doctorate and delivering the commencement address to encourage and empower the leaders of today. And right before boarding your flight to depart, learning that diabolical, delusional, demented, dumb Don was busy trying to challenge your IQ again, while I was literally speaking to graduates, not because I forced myself upon them, cough, cough, Alabama, but because they legitimately love and respect what I have to say. He was still flunking and coming in last for the presidential class, but instead of trying to start to pass, he's immaturely and inaccurately attacking me. There we go. Then you have on Canada.
Canada was a state. It wouldn't cost us. It would be great. It would be such.
I can't play. You get it. You know what he's going to say about Canada. My goodness. It's so totally ridiculous. And there's more. Last clip as another example that makes me critical of Kristen Welker. He's what? Don't just nod. Watch how much she nods whenever he says he won the youth vote by 36 points.
You would.
I would.
So you want to see a deal.
I'd like to see it done. I have a little sweet spot in my heart because, as you know, I won young people by 36 points. That's a lot. No Republican ever won young people, and I won it by 36 points, and I focused on TikTok. So,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. No, Christian, he didn't even win young voters. Why is this something he gets to say? Young voters as a whole favor Kamala Harris to Donald Trump 52% to 46% in the 2024 presidential election. Now, he got a larger share of the youth vote than in the past. He won male youth voters, not by 36 points. But he lost the youth vote in its entirety, which was the claim. And her response was, nice. Or he said he won it. Unbelievable. So there were some better, you saw some of her pushback, and then some of it was a little not to meeting the moment, and he was a disaster. Share your thoughts in the comments. I know that was a lot. And get the bonus show by clicking the join button below.